Dispatch to all units. This is a third alarm. Switch to the TAC channel.
You got water.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the TAC channel. I'm your host, Heath Meredith. This is the Third Alarm Cowboys podcast. This is a podcast for firefighters. We talk about real life situations, stuff in your station like leadership and promotions, and stuff in your personal life like relationships and finances. You name it, we talk about it. Some things may be a little controversial, but that's real life, and that's what we're going to talk about on this show. Guys, this is going to be a really fun one for me. Me and this guy have known each other for a really long time. I got to thinking about it, and I'm pretty sure I know for the fact he was the very first chief that gave me my first paid job. We've known each other pretty much our entire lives through family, friends, and whatnot, but then kind of more or less came up in the fire service together. So this is going to be a real fun one for me. We're just going to talk about a lot of different stuff, and primarily the election that Kelcey's got going on. So guys, without further ado, I'm going to bring on Kelcey Trotty.
Well, we've already been talking for the last 20 minutes, but yeah. How's everybody doing?
Go good, man. Yeah, it's cool to catch up. I ain't seen you in a while, and it's pretty awesome to me. Of course, I've followed y'all. You know, you got everything going on and working up around Longview and all that good stuff, and just watching y'all getting to be parents and raising your little one. And it's funny how the life that we had whenever we were young and kids and all stupid and acting a fool. And now, y'all moved off and now everybody's kind of doing the same stuff of raising kids, raising cows, trying to make this fire service life work. And it's awesome to catch up with you. So
yeah, it's crazy. We've talked a lot over the years. We haven't seen each other over the years. Every time I come to NAC, you're on shift or something or other. And so, yeah, it's crazy the way that things work out. And but in the day and age of social media and things like that, we're able to keep up with each other.
Yeah, I like it. It's definitely been cool. It's been cool to see everything y'all have going on. I know that you're full-time, you're a captain at Longview, and then you work at Smith County, but I don't even know what your rank is and stuff, what you're even doing over there now.
So I've been at Smith County. I started off over here in 2016 when the ESD took over the paid staff for everywhere. So right now I'm actually a captain working part-time over here. Believe it or not, I started off as a battalion chief working part-time. So prior to the ESD taking over all the paid staff, the departments pretty much had their own paid staff. They could do what they wanted to. With the ESD doing it, of course, it brought in regulations and standards. Everybody's having to follow by TCFP at that point. So that was really cool. And one of my highlights, I guess you could say, of my fire service career was being able to go in on that, starting from the ground floor and basically building that thing up. So it's huge now. We're staffing, I think, 12 stations with the plans of getting the 13th one staffed here within the next couple of months. 100 and some odd employees, covering 700 and something square miles of district. I think we're hitting probably about, I would say, close to 8,000 to 10,000 calls a year. Fires, EMS, wrecks, you name it.
Dang, I didn't realize it was that big. I mean, obviously I know where Smith County is, but I didn't realize y'all had that many stations and everything, which I'll tell you from the outside looking in, even down there working in Houston and all that kind of stuff, the Smith County as a whole is getting a really good reputation for having really solid firefighters coming out of y'all's area and working there. So that, to me, that's exciting because I know you're over there, Ray's over there, Birdwell's over there. Like, there's a lot of guys that I've known that have all, either retired from their jobs and gone over there to help start this up, or like you and Ray have been there from the very beginning. So it's pretty cool to me to see what y'all are doing with a complete startup from the ground floor, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of it was out of necessity. Things grew the way that they did, as fast as they did, came with the growing pains of growing fast, but a lot of it was out of necessity. The population growth, the call volume expanding like it did, and the national trend of the dwindling volunteers and the availability of time. These folks are paying for a service that they may or may not get, and so you have to augment that staffing with the career staff. And there's still some volunteers around, but I mean, it was out of necessity that it had to happen. You can't be collecting tax for a service but then not provide. That's not good business.
Yeah, 100%. That's gonna be a failing business. Yeah. Speaking of Longview, I mean, y'all actually made the big time the other day. Was that your shift that was on that made that grab off of the cell phone tower, or?
So that was my shift. My engine company was the first engine company on scene. And let me tell you, I've been in Longview for almost 18 years now. I've been in the fire service for a little over 27. That is not something that I ever thought that I would ever do. So, no, we were in 48s up here. So that was our second morning. It was a little bit after 8 o'clock when the call came in, and the initial dispatch said, balloon stuck in a tower, 100 foot off the ground. Well, you know how it is dealing with the general public. They say 100 foot off the ground, and it's really 30. Anything above where their standing height is looks like it's super high. So, and that's really what our thought was that it was just, maybe it may be 30, 40 foot off the ground. Nothing else. Throw a ground ladder, maybe use the aerial, get them out, no big deal. So, my driver, his VFD that he's the chief of, they were dispatched to it, and it actually, so the whole dispatch side of it ended up being pretty weird because it was in another county, which we were just outside of Gray County, but it was actually in another VFD's area. So the VFD that was dispatched initially, it wasn't even in their area. So we're going down the road, we turn, and looking back on it now, had we looked out the back apron of our station, we would have been able to see it. It was that close to us. So we're going down the road, and I'm literally in the engine with my coffee cup, taking a drink, and I look up and I see it. And I'm like, hey, Chris, you see that? He's like, that's definitely not 100 foot up. That's really high. So we get there. Well, the ladder truck from the station is with us. Well, the guy riding tailboard on the ladder, he is a tower climber on his days off. So we get there and we look up. Of course, we see it. It's high, and he tells us, "Hey, I just climbed this tower a couple months ago to change the light bulbs on it. That's an 1,100 foot tower." And I'm like, "Oh crap!" So battalion chief's already coming. Our high angle guys at Station 5, they heard the dispatch because one of the guys working there, he's on that VFD that was dispatched also. So they were already coming, and we already had resources coming, but we had to call more because we didn't realize just what we were getting into until we actually got on scene. So they give us size up like, hey, we do have a balloon on the tower. They advised it's going to be well over the dispatch 100 foot. Tailboard's telling me that this is an 1,100 foot tower. So basically, take with that information, do what you want to with it. So I'm not a hangle guy. I'm not a rope guy. I'm not a water guy. I'll tell you all that here from the start. So me knowing there's nothing I'm going to do that's going to affect the rescue on that tower. We just went to handling the stuff on the ground that we knew we could. So first thought was let's isolate the power to this tower. So forced entry into the locked area. Went to the building. Kill the main power. Of course, they've got a backup generator to it. So we go and we kill the backup generator. In the meantime, we've got DPS, Sheriff's Department, two different VFDs. We got East Mountain VFD and Judson VFD that are showing up and basically just lining all those resources out, getting things staged and ready to go to support the rescue effort. So ended up putting the battalion chief and the truck lieutenant, his lieutenant kept stepping up to captain, put them over the rescue. Like, hey, y'all handle that. I'll handle the rest of the stuff that goes on the ground. So just basically supporting the rescue effort by doing what I knew how to do and using my guys and using those resources to affect it so that when the victims come down off the tower, straight to a cot, to an ambulance, and gone. Eliminate any kind of lag time that's there. And plus, make it to where they don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously, the rescue at 950,000 foot, no, that's the priority. So, I mean, whatever I can do to take it off of them, they don't have to worry about it. Basically, they come to me and say, hey, we need this, or hey, has this been done? Yeah, it's already been done. It's already handled. I've already got the people in place to handle all this. So that was my role in that rescue.
I didn't even realize I didn't know you were at that. So that's cool.
Yeah, everybody's like, how high did you get? I was like, well, however high above sea level we were at that location is how high did I got. And I think it ended up being like 500 something feet above sea level. But everybody's like, oh, what? That means you were on the ground still. Like, yeah, you're right. It means I was on the ground. Yeah.
Oh,
Y'all wanted me to be that high. He gave me wings.
no, that's insane. Yeah, I remember everybody, like I know from around the country, saying like, "How close are you to Longview?" I'm like, "Well, I live closer to Longview than I work." Yeah, it was pretty cool for y'all to get to blow up across the nation like that.
Yeah, I mean, like I say,
but yeah, 100 foot, they lost me.
yeah, I'm okay at 100. I'm not real comfortable with it, but I can do it. But that's my max. I work on an engine. There's guys that they're on trucks. They love that kind of stuff. I'm not taking that glory from them at all.
For sure. Well, they, I mean, even back whenever I roughnecked and stuff, I liked working derricks. It was cool for me to go up there, I think it was like one of the rigs I was on was like 210 foot to the crown. That part wasn't a big deal. But what guys don't realize is even like just that climb is insane. Like when you climb 200 foot without a weighted assist or something like that, that's a serious climb, especially carrying gear.
Yeah. So the
that takes
first guy that went up on
a
that,
serious amount of effort.
yeah, the first guy that went up on that tower, he went up with a recon pack and was up there in about, I think it's an hour and 10 minutes from the time he started his climb to the time he hit the top. So I mean, that's
Uh,
nothing but pure athleticism.
yeah.
That is all that is.
Yeah, that's pretty damn awesome. That's pretty
Yeah.
damn awesome. That's cool. I didn't know. I was going to ask you about that, and I didn't even realize that you were on it. So that turned out to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, before I do get sidetracked, because we're good about being good old East Texans and being able to talk about a bunch of stuff. I know one of the main things I wanted to bring you on was I know you're running for office. You're heavily involved with SFFMA, which is the volunteer side in the state of Texas. And I wanted to, kind of give you an opportunity and stuff. And I know you're burning up the road and trying to get around and meet with all these local departments all across Texas. I just mainly want to give you an opportunity to, instead of burning fuel, be able to just talk and kind of let guys know what you have going on, what it is that you're running for, what your goals are, all that kind of stuff for
Okay.
what you're wanting to do here in Texas with the volunteers.
Okay. So yeah. So I'm running for fourth vice president of the State Firemen's and Fire Marshals Association. So one misconception that I want to clear up is that everybody thinks it's just for volunteers, and it's really not. It's for firefighters in the state of Texas. I mean, lots of large career departments maintain memberships. They may not be as active as the VFDs are in some of the smaller career departments, but I mean, they still maintain memberships. Longview maintains a membership. I believe that Houston and Dallas and some of those still maintain memberships just because the association has been around for so long. So, in the fourth vice president realm, basically what it is, you run for fourth vice president. The positions elevate throughout the years. So if I get elected, at the end of my term, I will go out as president. But everybody starts down at the bottom and works their way up. The main reason I'm running, I've been involved in SFFMA since I started in the fire service, with the exception of just a couple of years where I wasn't on the fire department in between moves and things like that. Um, but going out on TIFMAS deployments and talking to a lot of these departments, one thing that has been there's been three things basically that have been uh, commonly echoed from the departments is, communication with other departments in the state. I mean, you know as well as I do, there's no new problems in the fire service. It's just a new problem to your department. A lot of these guys that I talk to, they have these issues, and you're like, oh, well, I dealt with this issue years ago, and this is how I solved it. You might try it and see. Like, man, we wish somebody was around that we could talk to about this. And so, one of my goals is being able to put those departments in contact with each other. Say you call me and you're like, hey, Kelsey, I got this issue going on. You know anything about it or anybody that I can talk to? Like, well, either I can help you with it or I can put you in the direction of somebody that's had that same issue that they can help you figure it out. One of my other issues is equipment. So everybody's familiar with 2604 and Helping Hands programs. Well, what a lot of people don't realize is that, especially on the Helping Hands side, is that departments can do direct donations. So, like, say we've got something in Longview or Smith County that we deem as excess, and no, I'm just going to say St. Augustine, since that's where you live. St. Augustine Fire Department is looking for something. If I know it's something they're looking for that I have, then I can direct donate it through Helping Hands to that fire department. So, being able to get that equipment out there and helping those departments get that equipment. I mean, this last legislative session, they opened up a sizable amount of funds through 2604 for these fire departments to clear the backlog of what grants were out there. One thing that I've seen, and you may have seen it on Facebook here a little bit too, is that a lot of departments have gotten awarded these grants that they put in for 10, 12, 15 years ago. Well, situations have changed. They may have had the money to do it then. They may have the money to do it now. Their needs may be there. I know one department in our area, they put in for a tender grant back then. Well, since then they've bought one and they really don't need it, but they're using the grant because they've got three stations and building a fourth. So they're using it to get another truck that they're going to need. Um, so, I mean, they'll still be able to use it. But I've seen where a couple departments have had to turn the grants down because they don't have the funding for it anymore. And um,
Mm-hmm.
And that's one other area that I would like to, be able to pursue is figuring out some way to help these departments with, paying their matching part of it. Being able to work on things like that, just to help people be able to get the equipment that they need to serve the people that are out there. And then my third area was training and education. So my uncle retired from Nacogdoches Fire Department. One of the things
Yeah.
that he told me when I first started volunteering years ago, and if my mom watches this, she's gonna hate it because I'm gonna quote him. He said that this ain't no damn joke. This is a job. This ain't a hobby that'll kill your ass if you're not paying attention and you don't train and learn for it. So I've always taken that to heart. Uh, Training and getting educated. And I just want to be able to help other people do the same thing because you know as well as I do. I mean, you keep up with line of duty deaths and things like I do. And a lot of those boil down to the same things, especially when you get to the smaller department side, is that the lack of training, the lack of education and things out there that either departments don't have access to or it's just cost prohibitive to them. So, like with your training company and you going out and training these departments, things like that, you're taking that training to them. No, there's some cost involved with it, but it's grant reimbursable, things like that where a lot of these departments they may not be able to travel to a facility to get the training, or there may not be anything in their area where they can get it. So, and SFFMA has those resources available, but a lot of times it's just getting the information out to the departments. Now, I will say that Kim, the marketing director for SFFMA, she does a fantastic job about getting that information out there. But still, even this weekend, I was at a district meeting for my own home district here in Northeast Texas. I had a couple departments that were coming to me after the meeting asking questions about stuff, and a lot of times they don't know how to go about getting the information. So those are the three things that I'm looking at trying to improve upon.
No, that's awesome. I honestly didn't know that. And I've been with SFFMA since I was 18 years old.
Yeah,
But I didn't realize that they had those type of resources to be able to bridge a lot of those gaps because a lot of the grant stuff, like I did it obviously in Nacogdoches County back whenever we were younger and volunteering and all that kind of stuff. And I knew a little bit more then than what I do now on a lot of this. But with us getting 2604 eligible for our training class, our engine ops class, I've been really kind of diving in and trying to learn how to help a lot of these departments too, because that is a big issue. We go to the departments and use their equipment. It's kind of not necessarily our sales pitch, but it's what makes us special is I don't have to have a whole bunch of fancy crap to come work. I come work with what you've got. And some of the places that we go, the stuff they've got is not very much. And so
yeah, they might not have a
very
lot.
cool yeah. I mean, I joke because I usually try to ask the chiefs, how much hose do y'all have? Because we do a lot of the pumping stuff and a lot of the water
Yeah,
supply. Because in rural Texas, water is always an issue. And some
absolutely.
of these places we go, like they barely got enough hose to staff to stock their trucks with hose, much less put hose on the ground and do training, and run the risk of blowing out sections or whatever, things like that. So it's a serious issue. I didn't realize that SFFMA had an ability to bridge on that. So that's news to me.
Yeah, and like I say, that's through the Forest Service with the 2604 and the helping hand side of things. But a lot of these departments don't know how to go about going through all of that. I mean, you got to realize a lot, especially on the volunteer side, a lot of these departments, they're they're ordinary citizens that are volunteering their time, taking away from time they could be spending with family and things like that to go help their neighbors. And so a lot of times, I mean, you know how it is. Both of us come from similar backgrounds as far as volunteering with small departments. The administrative side of things may not be up to par where it truly needs to be just because of the amount of time that it requires to do. And so, no, if I can help these guys out any way that I can, no, I'm all for it. No, I'm not in an area where I can volunteer anymore because of the rules that we have with our ESD in the county. But I mean, I would love to. And I kind of live in a weird area where is that I live in one county, but I'm closer to another county, but I'm so far out that me being one to try to respond to calls, it's not going to be. There's no way that I can do it and be effective. I would love to go back to being a volunteer, just because it's in my blood. It's something I've done for so many years.
Oh, 100%. I get asked, we taught down in Lumberton last month, did a big regional training down there. And some of those guys down there were like, man, do you volunteer at your hometown? I was like, honestly, no. Like, I'll go up there and help them, like, teach, train, whatever. If there's a bad incident, most of these guys all know me. And so, like, I can show up and help out. But I'm like, man, with the amount of time I'm on the road working in Houston, and then like you're talking about, just to get out my gate takes me over 10 minutes.
Yeah.
To try to respond to town, to get in the truck, to make a run, like I would be completely useless. And so I feel you on that, because it's just sometimes you're a little hamstrung by your schedule and just really kind of where you live. Makes you feel like a piece of shit, but it is what it is. Like I would not be reliable. And so, I hate it, but I totally understand that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we were talking about before the podcast. You saying guys are asking you why you don't move to Houston, and everybody asks me like, well, I don't live in Longview. We both had the same answer. Go sit out on the back porch and watch the cows run around. I'd much rather do that any day than go out and look at a daggum building in my backyard.
Yeah, or traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The only traffic I get maybe somebody during hay season. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I was gonna give everybody a little history lesson, just kind of on how we know each other, just because I think it's cool. So like, your uncle and my dad were really tight, through the fire department stuff in Nacogdoches and all that. And then we were talking a little bit before, because I really couldn't remember when you went to fire school. So you started at the fire department in Longview the same time like when I started fire school. So you were about a year ahead of me. And then of course we worked together which was the first duty crew department in all of East Texas. And I was trying to remember, I think that was like 2010, maybe 2011,
Yeah, probably
something like that. And that was a really cool dynamic. I always thought it was cool what y'all did, hiring guys like me, bringing us in, giving us our first paid job so we could get that experience. Because that was that time period where guys, you couldn't get a damn job because you didn't have any experience, but you couldn't get any experience because you couldn't get a job. And so I always thought it was really cool what y'all did, hiring us in and giving us that first paid job, letting us get our feet wet and stuff. And then just overall, that district was fun. I made so many extrications in that district, running where 59 split.
59, 259, those roads. I mean, we were talking about that this morning at shift change when I was leaving work. You have those roads that are just long, straight roads. There may be some hills into them, but there's not a lot of curves. But those are usually the ones where you have some spectacular pin ends and head-on collisions, or they run off the road, hit trees and stuff like that, and you're just like, how did this even happen? It's not raining. There's no curve here. No noon during the day. Yeah, hey, that was a great place to learn.
Mm-hmm. It really was. And I remember the time period of going from when we had the engine, and then we had that open cab ladder truck. So when the ladder truck got sold, and then it went to the heavy rescue.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool to get to be there, to be part of all those, with those different trucks. And that was still one of the nicest engines that I've ever rode on, because that sucker was total custom build. That was a badass truck. It was big though. That was a big ass engine.
Yeah, it has that 2,500-gallon pumper tanker. But that's also where I learned that politics have absolutely no place in the fire service. And I hated it. I hated it with a passion. I still hate it to this day. And then I have guys who are like, you hate politics so much, but now you're basically being a politician and running for an office. I'm like, yeah. Well, there's one guy that I had to call him because he'd hit me up about it a couple of years ago. He's like, man, why don't you do this? Like, no, I'm not a politician. I can't do it. And so I had to call him like, hey, I want you to hear it from me first. I'm running for this position. He's like, I thought you didn't want to do politics. I'm like, you know as well as I do. No, yeah, I don't want to do politics, but at the same time, I can't watch people scrape by. I can't watch people suffer and struggle without wanting to be in there to help them. And that's my whole deal. Is I want to be there to help. No, the this is a very thankless career. This is a very thankless service. And if you're here as a fireman looking out for number one and trying to be selfish about it, you're not going to, yeah, you might be successful in your career, but are you going to be truly fulfilling the calling and the passion that you have for it? No, because you're not looking at it to help those in their time of need. And when I'm looking at it from helping those in their time of need or other fire.
100%. So is this VP spot, is it just for like our district, or is it for all of Texas? Like, what is the actual like area you're running for?
It'd be all of Texas.
Okay. I got you. Dang. So how many times have you had to drive out to West Texas and stuff to politic?
So I've been to Abilene, I've been to St. Angelo. I was wanting to go out to Monahans this weekend to that district meeting out there. Just time and miles don't just add up sometimes. I didn't get out there, but we had our district. So I'm in the Northeast Texas district. We had our meeting this weekend, so I was able to go to that. Last weekend, I actually hit two of them. I was in Waukegan for their district meeting for the East Texas district, which covers their year in. Um, and then I was at North Texas district in Corsicana, which that actually covers the Metroplex area over Fort Worth, a lot of those places. Before that, I've been down to La Pryor, which is about 30 miles south of Uvalde and about 50 miles from Mexico. I was down there for that district meeting.
Wow.
That was about a 7.5 hour turnaround trip. Went down there on Friday and come back Saturday. Um, yeah, I've been all over. So this coming weekend, we're going up to Wichita West Fire Department for Red River District meeting. I've got the Central Texas District meeting coming up, and then I'll be going to Amarillo for the Panhandle District meeting. So, yeah, I look forward to getting some miles put on it.
Yeah, I hear that. That's you doing them rodeo miles now, man.
Yes, sir, I am.
Make
But
you feel like you're back to hauling again.
I mean, running, going out on TIFMAS deployments, it's the same thing. Well, I've been out to West Texas, I've been Central Texas. The coolest trip was actually going down to South Texas. We were down in Beeville. We went to a fire down in Rockport. Well, we're right down there on the coast. So we're doing our morning briefing, and they're going over the weather, and they're telling us that the humidity to that day for the low was going to be 40%, and they're all like, "Oh, 40%, that's pretty bad." Well, us being from East Texas, 40% humidity, we don't worry about that. Fire-wise, if humidity hits down in the 20s, that's when we start really kind of perking up and worrying about what's going to happen. Down there on the coast, those guys, their normal humidity is 80%. So, no,
Oh yeah.
so it's a big difference, and it's all regional. It's all relative to where you're standing at the moment. And so yeah, I mean, and going out to we were in May, which is over by Brownwood one year on a fire, and they're like, "Oh yeah, humidity's gonna be 9% today, so it's gonna be really bad." We're like, 9%? That's about 11%. Well, we're really start getting concerned in East Texas. But no, for them, no, anything 20 down to 10, they really, yeah, our normal humidity over here is 30%. We don't really worry about it until it gets down in those single digits. So if you ever wonder how big Texas is, it's huge. Where you can have conditions like that, where just things like humidity. We deal with 65, 70% here in East Texas. West Texas, they're the 20s on a regular basis. When you get down to South Texas, they're in the 80s, and it's been a learning experience. It's been fun.
Yeah, for sure. That I hadn't got to do any of the wildland stuff pretty much since I worked at Appleby, because when I went to Harris County, the places I worked, we were all part of SEMA doing the
Yeah.
industrial mutual aid system stuff, and so you couldn't be part of TIFMAS and that. So I got pretty heavy on the industrial side and everything, but it is cool to I'm starting to see a lot more departments actually get away from doing the SEMA and moving back into the TIFMAS, and it's kind of cool because I'll hear people talk about stuff and I'm like, yeah, I remember that. Like I remember how to do that, whatever, and like. Because I was working at Appleby when the Bastrop fire happened in 2011,
Yep.
and that was a huge deal.
Yep.
Yeah, I could tell on some guys at Appleby when we were at that big Cherokee County, the big Tri-County fire,
yeah.
whatever they ended up calling that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That was.
it's pretty cool. That's a whole other animal that you have to learn about.
Oh, it is 100%. And it's such a, and not to diminish structure firefighting by any means. Like, I love both of them. And in the structure firefighting, you're basically fighting fire in a box. That box is going to burn to where that box is and nothing more on just a very basic level. Now, we all know about fire spread and wind-driven fires and things like that, what it can do. But just on a very basic level, that fire is burning in that one box, and it's going to go until it can't burn anymore in that box. So on a wild one, that box is what's called a contiguous fuel. So, you've got 100 acres of grass out there with 50, 60 mile an hour winds blowing. Well, it's going to burn that 100 acres until there's no more fuel for it to burn. And, out in West Texas, you may have 100 acres that has nothing on it. Well, that's fine. Those fire departments out there, they're used to that. They handle it. Whereas when we get 100 acres over here, there might be 1,000 houses in that 100 acres. So, it's a whole different ballgame of what you're looking at and what you're dealing with.
100%. That's one thing. I was actually talking to somebody very recently. I don't remember who it was, but talking about the difference in how, like in East Texas, we use a lot of dozers and stuff when it would come to wildfires and all that. Because once, and like I'd tell guys, man, you haven't like been scared until you're standing there and that fire starts crowning out those pine trees 100 foot in the air and starts running across those pine trees, and there is not a thing you can do. Like there's no water you can put on it. It just is a freight train of fire. And I actually remember watching it at that Cherokee County fire when it was actually jumping the river. And people they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, literally, it was superheating enough, the trees on the other side of the river, that the fire was jumping back and forth. And it was just insane to see. And I don't think a lot of people understand what fires like that can really be like. And so it's
not at all.
Pretty wild to hear all these guys that are getting to go do that now.
Well, having some guys go out and see it that kind of look at it, they looked at Wallen from the standpoint of, oh, this is just something else that we got to do. And then they go on these deployments. Number one, they go for the money because of the pay. And then they get out there and realize that it's not what they thought. And then they come back and they're like, they want to learn more. They want to do more. No, that's been fun to see some guys do that too.
Oh, for sure. It does, which I know Smith County does deployments. Is Longview doing deployments too? They do a lot of that?
Yeah, Longview does a lot of deployments. So Longview did their first deployments for Tiffany's, I believe, in 2011 to Bastrop, and been pretty much involved ever since.
I knew back in the day they were pretty big with task force stuff. Like y'all had a big regional task force deployment team.
Oh yeah, they're still big. Yeah, they're still big in task force, water, confined space, hazmat. You name it, our guys are doing it.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Well, I thought it was cool earlier what you were saying, and we were talking about different guys that we know that are coming up on retirement. You're getting on up there where you're going to be eligible.
Like you just called me old, Heath.
Some of the other guys that we know. Hey man, you're older than me, so that makes you old. But I think it's cool. All the guys that they were more or less my seniors and stuff whenever I came in, and now they're getting to that point where they're like, man, I'm got my 20 or whatever. And I think it's cool. But one thing you had hit on when we were just, talking before we started recording was the different guys that we know that have hung on and hung on to the job longer than what they probably should have as far as money wise. But you were really shedding some good light on your thoughts on why guys hang out. If you remember that or whatever, or wanted to repeat, I thought it was really cool. I wish I'd had it recording at the time, but just the love of the job and stuff. If you want to talk about that, I thought it was cool.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the guys we were talking about, he's retired from Nacogdoches, and he had his day where for 40 something years, every third day he's going to work. Well, then he realizes that, hey, he's losing money going to work. But you get in that mindset of you love the job, you love the guys you work with, just what you do, it becomes you, and it's a routine, but it's a routine in the sense that you take that pride. You just become so invested in the job that you don't realize. Either you don't realize or you realize that, hey, I'm losing money going to work every day, but at the same time, it's what you love to do, and it's that calling that you have that you don't want to give it up because you've done it for so long, or you're so personally invested in it that it becomes you, and you don't want to give that up. You don't want to leave it. You don't want to leave it. You don't want to lose it. I hope that I'm that way one day, where somebody just tells me, okay, you've got to retire. And my wife's already told me that. She wishes that I could retire now. It ain't happening. Just to be one of those guys that has that love for the job. And I feel like I really do have a love for the job, but I don't know that I'll ever be at the level that some of those guys are. And I strive to be that way. But I don't know that I could ever, I don't know that I could ever match it.
Yeah. Do you think it's, I kind of feel like our generation and younger has been exposed to a lot more of the bad politics than what a lot of the older guys. I don't think the older generations had the level. They had politics, but it wasn't as bad per se as what it has been for us and just everything from the bad promotions to all this schooling to just you name it. We've gone through in our careers, especially mine and yours. We've gone through every ugly side that the fire service has had to offer. Do you think it's those guys kind of got to live more of the the good brotherhood, good station life than we did, and got to avoid some of that? Or do you think that's just me thinking we had it worse?
Well, so it's probably a combination of the above. So I've been lucky in my career that I've gotten to meet and speak with a lot of what I call senior firemen. The guys that have been around that started this job, either before I was born or about the same time, and they've been around for that long. So one of them that I consider one of my biggest influences, his name is Richard Van Winkle, and Richard's a retired fire chief of Alvarado Fire Department. His son Mike is one of my best friends. Um, and talking to him, you have a lot of guys that come up in the fire service at different times where uh, there were different things going on in the world, and a lot of that had to do with it. So you have the guys that come up under the kind of Bernasini type era, where there was so much emphasis placed on public relations type scenario. And you had the guys that come up under the era of the safety Sallies that were out there, that it was a big push for firefighter safety and personal safety. Um, you've had the guys that come up under, I guess you would call the war years, where they were fighting a lot of fire. But every group has been influenced by the group before them. So I think us as our generations come up in it, we're kind of on the tail. We've come up on the tail end of the folks that were really pushing safety a lot. And that's where a lot of the slashers things came from, stuff like that. And we're seeing a trend where we're getting, I won't say we're necessarily getting away from it, but you see Chief Reinwald, Chief Davis, and those guys are out there talking, and they're really pushing more of the aggressive firefighting, but it's aggressive but being smart about it. Taking those calculated risks, but still not being afraid to take those risks. And for me, that kind of combines two areas where I feel like uh, a lot of times us growing up, we were kind of failed in that we were pushed to be super aggressive about the way that we did things in our firefighting, but there wasn't a lot of emphasis placed on the education side of it. So I think we're at the point now where we're combining the two to make firemen that aren't robots. You know, where you get the whole moth to the flame type action where you see fire, you go put fire out. Which, yeah, I mean that's our job, is to be firemen. And it's one thing that I preach to my guys on my crew. So I want you to be aggressive, and I want you to be smart about it. No, I don't want to have to be the one to tell you, we got to go do this. Hey, we need to go do this. You have your standing orders that we're going to follow, but be smart about it. Be able to read the building, be able to read the smoke, be able to look at that building construction and recognize the features and the things that could cause you to get hurt or killed. No, and like I said, I think that's where we're at now in the pendulum swinging. Because I remember when slashers first came out, my uncle was asking me about it, and he was talking about the specifically transitional attack side of things. So, no, my uncle, he was a volunteer for years out there at Louisville. So, he asked me about it. We're sitting out there at his house, and he's like, "So, what's this transitional attack thing that everybody's talking about now?" And so I explained to him, it's where you make the fire, you find you a point of egress, you put water on it from the outside, up to about 30 seconds or so, and then you go inside, you knock out what you can. And he stops and he kind of looks at me for a minute. He's like, "You mean that shit we used to do back in the 80s where we go up there with that red line, we pop that window out, we put water on fire, and then we go in?" And I was like, "Yeah, pretty much that's it." And he's like, "That ain't new. We've been doing that forever." But that was one of the lessons that I learned, was that you don't ever pass fire, regardless of the situation. So, if I'm going to a front door and I'm going to make entry in that door, but there's fire pushing out of the window next to that door as I'm getting there to it, I'm going to put a little water in that window to try to black that thing down a little bit before I go in. Or if it's going to be a minute before we can make entry due to forcible entry issues, or whatever might be the case, if I've got fire showing, I'm going to put water on that fire before instead of wasting time. So the old has become new.
Oh, 100%. I joke about that all the time when the transitional attack stuff got real big. I'm like, dude, we've been doing that since the bucket brigade. Don't you think that they would throw water with their buckets from the outside to knock it down before they went in? Like,
Yeah,
that's literally nothing new. That's what we've always done. So they
yeah,
just wanted to kind of put a new name on it and sell it.
yeah, and then you start seeing people that are actually writing it in the policy. I'm like, ugh. You're kind of pigeonholing yourself at that point, because of course, none of us set out to break policy on purpose. Well, I say no, but some people probably do just because they're that hard headed against it. But you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into a specific tactic or operation, um, because all of a sudden you're going to have to get onto a guy at some point because they're going to break that policy out of necessity. So,
For
if
sure.
you can have a guideline that says, hey, under these circumstances, we will do this. But you can't be afraid to deviate from that. I call it backing up and punting, or it's just part of it. You can't pigeonhole yourself into having to do things one specific way every time, because the situation is going to arise where you can't. Take the tower rescue for example. No, those guys they were prepared for the rescue, obviously, but their initial thought was that they weren't going to have 4 or 5 different rope changes to change the people over to the 4 or 5 different rope systems to get them down. No, that's not a standard operation from my very limited knowledge on rope rescue. No, you put them on one
No,
rope
not
and
at all. Yeah, not at
you
all.
bring them down from top to bottom. Well, these guys had to do 4 or 5 different haul system changes to get the people down. So that just added another caveat to the rescue. But if it was ingrained in them that they can only do it this one way, well, that one way doesn't work. How are we going to do this? So in the county, I do a lot of extrication training and teaching. And one thing that I've always told the guys that once again was something that was taught to me was, start off with plan A and plan B, but already be thinking about C, D, E, F, G all the way down the line. So that if the situation arises where plan A doesn't work, you've already got plan B that you can put in motion, plan C. Now, I mean, I've run some of those where we stood back and scratched our head like, okay, everything we're throwing at this is not working. What do we need to do next? And for me, not having those robot firemen that can't think on their own, can't think on their feet, that's where that comes into play, because those guys will see something that I don't see, or they'll see it in a totally different way than what I see it. And they've got value, they've got ideas. I want them to be able to throw that out there without worrying about whether I'm going to tell them, oh, that's a stupid idea. Why would we do that? No, I want those guys to be able to think on their own, to act, to not be afraid of me jumping down their throat because they took it upon themselves to get something done. No, I want them to be just as confident and just as confident, so that when I'm off and they're stepping up into my position, they're going to be able to act and perform like they should.
No, 100%, man. That actually brings up a question. I'll ask you just one more, and then we can wrap it up. I completely agree with what you're saying. Like part of a lot of like my lecture and stuff that I travel around, I hit hard on the critical thinking, because I think that
Yes.
the robot fireman thing is a major issue, and people not being able to think outside the box, and that's literally what we're signing up to do, is think outside the box. There's no two emergencies are the same. I love that you bring up the extrication, because I have never run an extrication where the 2 cars were wrecked the exact same way. So everything is a critical
Not never.
thinking deal. How do you never? How do you, as an officer, like completely specify that to your guys? Like, are you just that bold and blunt with them, and like, hey guys, I want y'all to feel comfortable? Like, how do you go about trying to foster that critical thinking out of your guys?
So when I promoted, we had a little sit down table, and so Longview it's I won't say it's weird, but it's different in that when I promoted to a captain, um, one of my drivers, he was a driver at the station with me prior, or yeah, he was a driver at the station with me prior to me promoting. The other one, he did his paramedic clinicals, the ambulance that I was a firefighter on. So I knew those 2 guys from the start. And so we already had that relationship there. And then the other two, my 2 firefighters, they were newer guys that I'd worked with just a very little bit, not a whole lot. But as far as uh, conveying that to them, I was just blunt about it. Like, look, guys, no, I want y'all to be able to function on your own. I want you to be thinking. I want you to be smart. I want y'all to be able to pick up on things that I might see or that I might not see, and be able to bring them to my attention and be able to act on it. No, I just told him, no, this is what I expect of you. I'm not the type that's going to micromanage you. I'm not the type that's going to tell you what's got to be done every waking moment of the day. We're all grown men here. We've all been doing this for a while. We know what needs to happen. We know what needs to get done, and that's from the station level all the way up to being on the call. Um, one of my drivers, so We were sitting around the other night and we were talking about guys that influenced us coming up in the fire department. Well, I said, well, hey, I said, these are my top three drivers. And he looks at me. He's pointed out to me that afterwards that he can make himself cry on command. And he's like, I can't believe you didn't say that I was one of your top three drivers. I was like, you've worked with all three of these guys that I said were my top three drivers. He's like, but you were just a firefighter when they were drivers. They weren't actually your drivers. So my other driver comes out and he's like, hey, he said that we weren't in his top three. Zach told him who the guys were that were in top three. And Chris is like, I wouldn't consider myself in the top if I had to go up against those guys. There's no way. And so, but and they know that I think they're good, but they just like to give me crap about stuff like that. But we all have the understanding that we have expectations for each other. They keep me grounded. They hold me accountable for things just as I do them. A lot of times they have to hold me more accountable than I have to hold them. But I welcome that. I want them to be just as good. I want them to be better than me because I'm going to leave this place one day, and they're going to still be there. They're going to have to be the ones to pass this on to the next folks. And you mentioned Dale Burtwell and my uncle and Terry Westmoreland, Sean Black, Sean Dillon, a lot of those guys that we grew up knowing in the fire service. That I'm blessed in that Dale works up here in the county. He's one of our captains, full time guys. That I can still go to him and talk to him and ask him questions about stuff. And I've got those guys that are mentors for me um, in Longview and in the county, just all over, that I can pick up the phone and call if I've got a question about stuff. And and that's what I want. I want those guys to have that too. And obviously, I'd love for one of their choices to be me. But if it's not, then so be it. But my whole deal is just making sure that I leave this fire service better than it was when I found it. And the only way that I can make sure that I do that is to be that guy that's there for the guys to be able to answer questions and put myself in that mentor role and make myself available for those guys. And but also be humble enough to understand that I don't know everything, that I still have things to learn as long as I'm still working, still volunteering, whatever the case may be, that I don't know it all. And uh, but I know people that know things that I can call or I can put them in contact with to help them out.
Yeah, completely. I mean that tower rescue is a prime example. Like how many dudes how many times could you roll the dice and actually land where you have a crew member that does that on days off? Like
Uh,
that
yeah,
would never freaking happen. I mean,
no,
that's literally like a very special deal. And so for anybody to even pretend like they could be that guy, they're just dreaming. I mean, that's literally
no,
just how perfect it can line up sometimes. And
dude, that
I
is
really wish people had a better outlook.
that was 100% God. That there's no other way to describe that. For things to line up the way that they did that day, there's no other way.
100%. That's like, and you were talking about, Sean Black and stuff, which, he's one of my best friends. And of course, he did one of our original episodes with this show. But he was actually, I don't remember if he talked about it on that show or not, but when he first made battalion chief, they made a big fire out at the plywood plant out there at Norboard. And
Yep,
just so happened, the shift that he's on, a senior fireman that is, on that shift, his first career was working at that plant. And so, like, how better can it get, where you have literally a guy on your shift? Yeah, he didn't have rank. Yeah, he wasn't an officer. He wasn't. But Sean even said, he's like, dude, I put Kenny in the freaking car with me because Kenny
yeah,
knows this whole process. He knows where this piece of equipment is, and this, and where this danger is, and this target hazard. He's like, you utilize the people that you've got. That's if they know something, then utilize it, and then you get to learn from it. Don't sit back and be the guy like, well, hell, I'm the chief. I can run this shit, or whatever. And I'm like,
and
dude,
that's
that's like, how can that land where you make a fire or make an incident and you got literally a guy on the crew that was their previous job or whatever? Like, that's nuts.
and that's one thing that I see too is you have guys out there that have experience that have life experience in something else. And you have to be able to recognize that experience and be able to pull it and use it. I mean, we've all done things that are not fire service related, you know, and it may come a time where where that knowledge comes in handy for something dealing with fire department. And you have to be able to recognize that knowledge, but you also have to be able to pull that knowledge. And once again, it goes back to being humble. I don't know everything, but I know somebody that knows about this particular situation that we're in right now. So let me pull him and put him in my pocket and use him.
Oh, 100%, man. I really wish like that was a platform that I guess more chiefs or that was more of a leadership goal and like criteria it takes to be a leader in our industry is having that skill than what it really is. Cause I mean, yeah, it's, you know, we're sitting out, we're talking about cows and stuff. If we have some sort of, you know, say my department in freaking Houston, we have some sort of incident that involves either drilling equipment for drilling rigs or agricultural equipment. There's not very many other guys at my department that have a background working on drilling rigs or working with, you know, tractors or cows or livestock or whatever. Like it just, that's just how it lands, you know, and
Yeah, I mean,
it's crazy because every department has that.
I worked for Tyson Foods, the chicken company, before I went to the fire department. And I mean, I don't know what knowledge I have about a freaking chicken is going to translate to anything in the fire service, but so be it. If the time ever came where I had to use it, I'm ready.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and you never know too. I mean, like I've never been inside of a chicken plant, but I know there's conveyor belts. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on inside those plants. But
Yeah,
I would never know that stuff. But a guy that worked there, like you kind of know the layout. You know, like what that stuff does and everything. Like how to isolate it, how to do a lockout on all that stuff. I mean, that's very important information if you ever needed it.
yeah. I mean, I can tell you everything there is about a chicken house, and I, I, that's it. I mean, that's part of it. But I mean, that goes back to that prior learning that you have. That it takes all of that combined to make you where you are. I mean, you have to take the good with the bad when you're dealing with stuff like this. You have to be a well-rounded firefighter if you want to succeed. I mean, you can have your area of specialization, that's fine, but you have to know how to do it all.
I totally agree, man. That's something I beat up a lot on here, and I know a lot of people are kind of they don't always know how to take me because I get football coach mode. I be getting fired up and stuff, and but that's really ultimately what it comes down to is I'm like, man, it was beat into me by guys like you and Sean and all like y'all. I remember very very clearly everyone telling me like, man, you can know everything you need to know about fighting fire, but if you don't have a strong mechanical ability and understanding like building construction and how machinery works and how to read gauges and like all that kind of stuff, like you'll never be a good fireman. And so I'm like, okay, so I really, which of course I had the other jobs and everything, but I really tried hard to learn as much of that so I could be a value and an asset. And then now, you look up and it's that I use that stuff every single day, like building construction, or whatever. Like I use that every day. And at the time I'm like, man, why do I need to know all this? And then now, years in, I'm like, okay, now it all makes sense.
Yeah, I always tell everybody building construction, smoke reading, and fire behavior are the top three things that you need to know in order to live doing this job. Because, I mean, not to take anything away from any type of RIT training or anything like that. Very much so, you have to know how to handle yourself in a firefighter down rescue scenario. No, you have to know that. But at the same time, you also have to know how to avoid being in those situations to start with. And that's where knowing the building construction, how that building is going to come down, how that building's built, knowing how that building's going to come down, being able to re-smoke till the past, present, future of that fire, where it's at, where it's going, where it's been. But knowing that type of and fire behavior itself, what's going to happen if I do this? What's the reaction going to be if I open this door? How's that smoke going to travel? How's that going to affect my fire behavior? How's it going to pull the fire through this building? How is all that combined going to affect this building? How is that going to affect how I manage this operation? How's that going to affect how I am on the end of the hose line? Where am I going to put my fire string? What if I can't advance here? Uh, what kind of void spaces do I have here? You've got to combine all that into one in order to be successful at doing this job.
Yeah, 100%. And just to add to it, that knowing all that too is going to give you just that much more of a leg up to where to expect victims to be. When you're actually having to worry about doing a grab or worrying about the citizens being inside that structure, there's a lot more of a likelihood of somebody being in a residential structure being in a living area than it would be for them to be somewhere else. And you can usually tell that by looking at windows or whatever. Like there's so much that you can be beneficial of doing that. I really wish that was kind of, when you talk about the pendulum swinging, I wish that was something we kind of got back more into. It was beat into you guys that were a couple years ahead of me, but then y'all beat it into us, and then we kind of went away from it for a long time, going into the whole Safety Sally stuff. Now I really hope we pour back into that a lot more
Yeah.
of the realistic, like fireground knowledge that goes into all that.
Yeah.
Because I think
I mean,
that you're 100% right. That's what keeps you alive.
and there's still some guys out there that are still preaching that to this day. I mean, some of the best leaders that I've ever dealt with in the fire service were not chiefs; they're tailboards. I mean, they know their stuff, and those are the ones that will give you the information whether you've asked for it or not. I remember early on in my career in Longview, I had one that he asked me one day. He's like, "Hey, so you got any questions about anything, sir?" I'm sure you got a question about something. Like, no, no. I had lots of questions, but I was nervous, and so he took it.
Mm.
He took it and ran with it. He took his time. We went down. We went over the engine inside and out. He answered every question that I had. He's like, I thought you didn't have any questions. Well, I was nervous. I don't know what else to tell you. And to this day, he's still one that I can ask him a question. Now, he's gonna give me nine kinds of crap over it, but he'll answer the question eventually. But he's gonna exact some revenge somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe we could do a better job about that. I mean, I'm even guilty of it. You know, we beat up rookies pretty hard because we want them to earn their way, as it should be. But sometimes maybe when it comes to the questions and stuff, maybe we're not near as approachable as we should be when it
Yeah.
comes to that part of the aspect. I don't know necessarily how you combine both to be the most effective at both because it's both needed.
I'm
But
just as guilty as
guys have
anybody
got
else
to,
is with it.
yeah, yeah. I did it yesterday. We taught a ventilation class, and man, I was like, hey, guys, like y'all got to step this shit up. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't be on a roof, cut a hole, get off the roof, 2 minutes, man. Like that. You don't dick around on a roof, guys. Y'all ain't never seen
No,
what happens when dudes take too much time on a roof.
no,
Like
no.
this is a fast process, and y'all are doing it way too slow. So, and of course, I don't say it in the nicest ways, but that is what it is.
Yeah, we never do. We we like to use the sentence enhancers with it.
100%. Well, Kelsey, you got anything else for everybody? Any information like where you're going to be coming up and stuff, or like where
Uh,
guys can reach out to you and ask you questions?
So I mean, the Facebook is always there. You can find me on there. As far as my next meetings I'm going to, like I say, I'll be in Wichita West for Red River District meeting this weekend. I'll be out in Amarillo for the Panhandle District meeting, and at Moffett for the Central Texas District meeting. I'll be all over the place. You know, if anybody got any questions, like I say, they can always shoot me a message on Facebook, whatever. The state conference, it'll be the 150th annual SFFMA training conference. It'll be in Waco in June. I believe it's June 11th or 13th. So 150th year will be a big year for the association. You know, it's not very often that you have associations that stay around like that and they're still active and play major parts in anything. And they've been really big in the Texas Fire Service. The Volunteer Firefighters Monument down on the Capitol grounds in Austin. It's completely maintained by them. They have a big presence in the Teach Municipal School every year. The instructor memorial that's down there. There's some names on that memorial of some people that I've taught with over the years and some people that have been mentors to me in my career. One of them, Ronnie Kimbrough. Ronnie was a big part of me being in the fire service and somebody that I saw. Quick story about him. I'd see him and I'd be like, "Hey, Mr. Kimbrough, how you doing?" And he'd always look at me like, "Kelsey," he's like, "My daddy was Mr. Kimbrough. You call me Ronnie." And I'm like, "I can't do that. No, that's not the way that I was brought up." But his name's on that memorial. Another guy by the name of Jim White. That Jim's one of the ones that really got me into the political side of the SFFMA. He was the secretary for our district for a long time. He was the state assistant secretary for a long period of time. Um, and it was just funny that Jace, my son, was going to the sitter with Jim's grandkids, and he was one of those that he would, if he wanted you to do something, he wouldn't just come out and ask you to do it. He had his way. He'd put his arm around your shoulder, and be like, "Hey, I really think you'd be good at doing this," or "Hey, I really think you should try this." Next thing you know, you're doing it. But he was a good man. And so I mean, guys like that are on that memorial down there, and there's just a lot. There's a lot that people don't really realize about SFFMA. Like last year, I was very blessed and very fortunate to receive the Firefighter of the Year award for the state. Uh, got a brand spanking new leather helmet mounted on a trophy that Liz tells me that I absolutely cannot wear on a fire. And my thoughts is, it's a helmet. Why can I not wear it? She's like, "It's a trophy. Don't touch it." So, but I was blessed to be named to be awarded that. Uh, that that's something still to this day that I still I look at it and I just like, I don't consider myself worthy of it. No, but one thing that a lot of people have said was, well, how did you get that? You're a career fireman. You're not a volunteer. It doesn't matter. The association represents all firemen throughout the state of Texas. No, it doesn't say state fire volunteer firemen's and fire marshal association. I mean, years ago when it was created, it was the volunteer firemen's board. I mean, as with everything else, it's evolved over time that everybody has got to contribute. Everybody's got to pull their weight if we want to make this thing to be uh, a fire service. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, 100%. When is the election?
So the election will be, I believe it's June 13th. It'll be at the last business session of the conference.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, I learned a lot. I mean, like I said, I've been a member with them for a long time, but I didn't know all the ins and outs and all the different things that they were involved in. So I think that's very cool. And they're still, I mean, you're right. There's still like 2 or 3 of our mutual aid departments in Houston are SFFMA departments. They're not commissioned departments. They're still heavily involved, and they're all full-time personnel, whole 9 yards. So,
Yeah.
Making the same fires that we make. So it's all right, right up there, the same deal. So that's very
Yeah,
cool.
and,
I remember
and that's
seeing
another
the Firefighter of the Year deal. I thought that was awesome.
yeah, and that's another thing that people have got to understand. In the years that I've been doing this, I've never been on a fire where the fire stopped and asked me whether I was volunteering that day or whether I was working. I mean, it's all the same. Everybody everybody fights the same fire. I mean, regardless of whether you're getting paid to be there or whether you're volunteering to be there. Everybody does the same, cuts the same car, whether you're volunteering to be there or whether you're getting paid to be there. I mean, to me, there's no difference between a career guy and a volunteer guy aside from the paycheck. I mean, people want to point at the level of professionalism that goes into it. Well, I know some volunteers that could run circles or and command and operations around some career guys. I know some career guys that can do just the same. So, I mean, it's all on the level of professionalism that you have for yourself. It's all on the level of training and education that you have for yourself. I mean, guys on both sides, some of them want to do it all, and some of them don't want to do anything but the minimum that's required. But to me, that's the difference in firemen is just your level of commitment, your level of involvement to the job, to the career. I mean, you can volunteer and it can still be a career for you because it's something that you just put that much effort and time into. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're getting a paycheck or not.
Oh, I completely agree. That's something I scream about from the high heavens up here is the responsibility is the same. When people call 911, they're not saying send me a career department or send me a volunteer department. They're saying I need the fire department. So
I want a fire truck to show up.
You shouldn't care. And they really, I mean, I don't think people truly understand how much that responsibility is really there. I mean, I don't think us as firefighters, paid and volunteer, I don't think we understand how much the people really don't care. They just want a fireman there now.
It's their worst time. They want somebody there to help them in their worst time.
100%, man. Well, I won't take up any more of your time today. I know you had some stuff you were going to try to get knocked out, but I'm really happy to get you on here, and it's good to catch up with you and see. I'm so proud of all the stuff that y'all got going on and raising Jace. I think it's awesome that everything that y'all been able to go and do. And I know he's going to wear you out, especially he's going to wear Liz out too. So.
Oh, geez, so we're deep in the baseball season right now. We've got games tonight, and he's got his first show steer. So we've got lots of things going on, and of course the 8-year-old mentality that comes with it all. He's a blessing, but he is something else.
I'm sure, 100%. What do you think if he comes to you and says he wants to be a fireman one day?
So number one, I'm gonna be shocked because since he's been about 5 years old, he said that he wants to be a game warden, and he's stuck on that. He has held on to it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if you need to be a game warden. Dad's got a lot of friends that you're gonna have to make sure that you're really cool about a lot of things if that's gonna be the case. But I mean, if he wants to do it, of course, I'll gladly encourage it. And man, he's been around it since he was born. So I mean, of course, for those that don't know, he's adopted. And one of the stories that I tell about brotherhood in the fire service. So he's adopted. We came home from Fort Worth. Well, um, I had Homer Robertson. He's a retired assistant chief of Fort Worth. We were looking for a place to stay while we were up there, and I put on Facebook, we're looking for hotels and everything. around JPS area. Me not knowing that JPS is not really in the greatest part of Fort Worth. And so he gets on there. He's like, "Hey, you don't want to stay there. This is where you want to stay. When you get there, you call me if you need anything." So, I mean, I've got this guy that's in my corner that's giving me help, everything that I need, all the way to the time that we came home. So we came home right there around Christmas. We were met at the entrance to our neighborhood by fire trucks. We were escorted all the way to our house by fire trucks. Those firemen were there for us from the minute that we got home. One of my proudest involvements in Longview was being on the honor guard. My uncle was on the honor guard in Nacogdoches, one of the guys that started it. Following his footsteps, I was on the honor guard in Longview. The two honor guard guys show up at my house and brought Jason a challenge coin and took pictures with him and everything. They're like, "Hey, we're starting this new tradition where one of our guard members has a kid. We're going to be there for him." Things like that. That's what brotherhood and fire service means to me. It doesn't mean going to help your buddy get out of jail or something. It's being there for them, life events, when things happen, good and bad. There's no other way I can explain it.
I completely agree, man. Completely agree. That's man. And I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. Like the day when y'all had your court day and that y'all were Facebook live and I was at work, but I was watching it when y'all went in there and everything got the complete blessing and stuff. And it was just like it was a really emotional moment for me to get to see y'all finally get that. And so it was very cool. Even though I was 3 hours away, it was very cool.
I cried like a baby. I will admit it 100%. I cried. I cried a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody in the room did. So it was very, very cool. It was an awesome thing to see. And you're 100% right. That is what the brotherhood is looking after each other and being there in the good times and the bad. It's not just going and getting your buddy out of jail. But you're going to have to tell Jason, though, if he's going to do the game worn route, he dang sure is going to have to look the other direction. You got a lot of outlaws around you.
Yeah, I do.
He's from East Texas. All of us got a little outlaw in us around here. So
yeah.
But anyway, man, well, it was good to catch up with you. I hope everything goes good with getting you elected and stuff. I really know that you're genuine and you're gonna actually do what you can with that position to really get this stuff done. And just the sheer fact that you are putting it out there. This is a lot of things that I didn't know was even possible with SFFMA. So I think that's probably the case for a lot of these small departments all across the state is they just don't know what they don't know. And I think that's awesome that you're bringing that to the forefront and willing to get out here and get on the ground and actually meet with people and teach some people stuff. I think that's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, being able to pass along that knowledge that was passed along to me, I would be doing those guys a great disservice if I did not take the lessons that were given to me and pass those on to other people. No, I wouldn't be honoring what and not even just those guys that I consider my mentors and the ones that helped me out, but just firemen throughout time. That somebody had to teach them, somebody had to teach us, and it's our job to make sure that we're teaching and passing on that knowledge to those that are coming up behind us.
All right, man. Yeah, I'll let you get to everything you got going on. Guys, thirdalarmcowboys.com. Y'all be sure and share this. If you're going to the convention and everything, be sure you put your vote in for Kelcey and get him elected for that VP spot because he can really make a difference in the state of Texas for fire departments everywhere. Guys, we'll see you on the next one.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Heath.